So this is the third video I'm doing in this series with my determination for human design. I have alternating. If you haven't watched the other two videos prior to this is almost at the end of, I would say I have maybe 4 or 5 more days of my 30-day experiment. Bear with me because I just lost my voice this past week, so I'm a little hoarse still. But I wanted to capture a little bit of what I've been moving through this last week and the shifts that I'm seeing, because they've been very profound. And I can't say that it is only because of the way that I'm eating, because there's a lot of other things that I'm doing in my life that are pretty, just of a pretty big magnitude in terms of transformation. Especially the type of movement I've been doing. I've been getting into functional patterns. So I'm working a lot with changing my posture and my bone structure, and that shifts a lot emotionally, mentally, physically as well. However, I have a pretty deep intuition, and my intuition has been telling me throughout this journey with my determination that this way of eating and listening to what my body is actually desiring to take in as fuel has been so exciting. And I think I mentioned this in the last couple of videos, that I always had this feeling that it would be, but you can never really know exactly what you're going to go through. But to be actually in the process that I'd intuitively felt for a few years, ever since learning about this information, it's pretty special to be feeling like, oh, that intuition, that there really was something powerful in following this and listening to this. To see that coming about is really fun for me, and it makes me just want to continue with it. I've gotten to the place where it doesn't feel like I'm missing out. There's like rare moments when I'm around people or whatever, or see a restaurant that I'm like, oh, that sounds nice, but it's such a fast, it's just like a passing thought. Like, it doesn't feel like it matters too much. And one of the things that I've been reflecting on in my life because of this is noticing, like, when we are in a space where we're trying to make a decision, for me, when I was trying to decide, do I want to eat this way or not eat this way, that time period before the actual decision is made is what actually feels challenging to us, because our mind is in this like political back and forth, this battle of weighing out pros and cons. And that's when we say that, like, making a decision is hard. When we say that something's hard, it's not because of the decision itself. It's because of that time period right before it where we're feeling so wrapped up in our mind, because we've given our mind the job that it's not supposed to do, which is make decisions. And that's a big part of human design, is that we're here to be following our body, every single one of us. And it's funny because I'm actually a mental projector, so I have no inner authority. Mine's actually an outer authority about my environment, about the people I'm talking to. But even that has to do with the feeling in my body that I get as I pick up information from the people around me, as I speak this out. So the reason that I bring that up is that when I had been going through this before, it always felt like this really challenging decision, because my mind was going into this weighing out of options of like, oh, well, I'm going to be missing out on this and this and this and this. And those things felt like it was making it really hard for me to choose to try this out. And now that I'm actually in that space where the decision was made, the container was created, and I'm in the experiment, I'm realizing it's actually very easy. For me personally, once that decision is made, that on the other side, you're like, oh, it wasn't actually hard. Now I'm in that place that was the unknown, and it only felt hard because the mind had all these ideas of what could be there. And that's kind of a metaphor for life, right? Is like, the reason that we don't make these hard decisions so often is because our mind equates it to the unknown. And the ego is terrified of the unknown. The ego is here to keep us safe. And safety is based on the ego's perception of what's worked in the past to keep us alive now. So it's all based in the past, meaning it's based in the known, because we have a memory of it. So it feels known, it feels solid, it feels safe to the ego. But when we go into our future, the mind wants to keep projecting our past onto it, to keep making decisions that resemble what we've already been through, so that it can keep us in this little box, this little comfort zone. So it feels really hard because of all these ideas of what could possibly be in the unknown, of that new outcome, that new timeline, that new future. But in reality, it's not actually that scary. It feels that way before the decision's made, but once the decision's made and we take an action to put ourselves in that place, we're in all of a sudden there, and we're like, oh, this is what I was scared of? This expansion, this new feeling, this thrill of something that is like novelty, right? And that's what we're actually craving as being here as creators, is to feel that evolution, to feel the transformation that comes from stepping just a little bit out of what we've known. And I had been in a cycle in my life. I used to be really good at transforming very, very quickly. But something happened throughout my journey where I got really stuck in these very big cyclical patterns, and they usually were around food. Because usually we have something in the external that we gravitate towards. It's kind of like an anchor that keeps us, whatever it is, if it's a substance, or if it's social media, if it's just certain thoughts and emotions. It's like we've created this anchor in ourselves to our comfort zone, that whenever we feel a little bit of expansion, whenever we feel a thrill of what's in the unknown, that excitement to explore it, something, it's like that temptation, right? The symbology of the snake. It's like that serpent energy wants to pull us back into the known, and we start to cycle. And so this has been one of the coolest experiences for me, is not just seeing this in food, but now being able to kind of like take what I'm learning from this and look at the rest of my life and say, what is it that I'm seeing as a plateau, or seeing as a place that I haven't let myself fully move? Because there's all of this weighing of options, all of this idea of what could be out there that's making me feel afraid to actually take the step. And can I get excited about how much actual ease, grace, excitement, curiosity, creativity, new might be in that place that I just haven't let myself explore yet. So that's what I'm seeing right now, is like, it doesn't feel hard at all, actually, because the more that I go into the way my body actually wants to eat, the better and better I feel, the more clear my mind is becoming, the more, like, I feel like every day it's almost like I'm coming into something that feels so good and so natural that I almost forget how big of a shift that there's been, because it feels so natural. So if I didn't have like these intense memories of how restricted it was, I probably I wouldn't notice very much, because it feels just how it should always feel. But we get so conditioned into our restriction, our contractions feeling normal, because at some point we become kind of numb to them. So one of the biggest realizations I had this week was waking up for, today's probably like the 6th day in a row of having no mental and emotional turmoil, like in the morning, even before I meditate. Normally, throughout this awakening, these last 5 years, it's very chaotic for me, mentally and emotionally. Like I almost feel like I have to have that morning meditation in order to be able to get myself to a place where I feel peaceful, where I feel like I'm not being pulled into negativity or pulled into these like waves of feeling. Not feeling in a bad way, but just like, it's like, what's the word for it? It's as if that mental emotional roller coaster that I was on was more in control before, and now I feel like I'm waking up in this very like, it's not even some high, it's not even some like crazy bliss state, it's like this just deep appreciation for life and for exactly what is, that feels so neutral and peaceful. And that's actually what I've been desiring for a really long time, is like, when we're seeking happiness and seeking these things, if we've been conditioned into these huge spikes of dopamine highs and lows, like I talked about in the last video, we are going to always keep swinging, right? That's a law of polarity. But what I've been really craving is just this feeling of peace, this place of like foundation inside of myself, where the majority of the time it feels like that baseline, instead of the majority of the time it being this like really high and low lows, because that's where I was before, where I felt like I had to have that at least an hour of meditation, sometimes like 3, 4, 5 hours of a morning routine. My morning routines were, granted, I was living in spiritual communities, working at a retreat center, so like that was my life, but my morning routines would be hours long, to the point where I felt like I couldn't get through my day in a good space if I didn't have that. And that's just not sustainable. I don't want to live my life like that anymore. Like, I love meditation, but I don't want to feel like if I miss my meditation that I'm missing out on life because I'm all over the place. And so in this week especially, I've been noticing that this is probably the 6th day I've woken up just feeling really, really good. Really, really peaceful, centered, still. There's less noise in my mind, there's less negativity, there's less charge to everything. There's less of a need to understand everything, which for me that might be something personal to me, but before it felt like I was clinging really hard to trying to get and figure out everything. And the way I equate that, or the way I analyze that now, is like, if something's off in our body, there's going to be excess energy trying to figure something out, and that can get blanketed onto anything that's coming in as information. Let me figure out what's happening in life because something's off in my body. But now that there's this readjustment, obviously there's probably a lot of work still for me to do internally of clearing. It's not going to just clear everything. But from putting the fuel in my body that it's wanting, the more of the quantity, I'm still not perfect at this, but I'm getting a lot better, the quantity, the quality, and one thing at a time, that I notice the way I'm digesting life is different, and I notice the way that there's just less of this need to figure everything out. There's less of this like tightening and clinging and like, oh my God, I need to figure it out. It's more of just this starting to open and relax into life. This ability to just kind of witness it, but not witness it from like, I'm out here and life's here, but just really witnessing it from where I am. And I think there was something else I wanted to share too. Let me see if it will come to me. There's a lot of depth opening in my intuition, in my like third eye especially, which used to be pretty, what's the word? My upper chakras used to be like very, very turned on, and I kind of closed them off at a certain point because something a bit traumatizing happened to me. And now I'm starting to notice that my upper chakras are opening again. My third eye seems to be really, really active, but in a very practical way. Like, I feel like just my intuition seems so spot on with so many things, and it's just this like louder whisper than normal because it's not fighting against all this energy in my body for recognition. So that's been present. And then the last thing I'll share is like where I'm at with the experiment itself. I'll probably do one more video when I get back from a trip this weekend, but I'm finishing out the 30 days sometime I think it's Sunday, this next Sunday. So I want to keep going with this. It feels like it's going to be just a lifestyle, but I'm going to keep the strictness of the container going for a little bit longer. So my plan right now is have my partner is an amazing chef, so we're going to be with some friends this weekend. I'm going to let myself have like one actual meal with more than one ingredient, like meaning like having salt, and like it's probably still going to be simple, but just allowing myself to also enjoy life, because I feel that balance, when it comes to making this a lifestyle, balance feels really important to me, that it's not like I can never have anything ever again, but it's just a recognition of like, I genuinely want to eat like this because I feel so much better in life. Life's pleasures are becoming so much more alive outside of food, and before it was almost like my mind would blanket this belief, this unconscious belief that like food's as good as it gets. Like at some point in my life, that subconscious belief was created that like when things got really shitty, at least I had food, at least I had this sense of pleasure, at least I had this way of getting out of my emotion, of distracting myself or whatever it was. And I want to discover like how much better I can feel in this body, and this feels like it's supporting me in getting there. So I'm going to keep it going. I'll probably do at least 3 months of this being pretty strict. We'll see. And I'm going to keep documenting it, because this actually really helps me as well to just process and kind of hear what I'm going through, because it's day to day, it's moment by moment, making all these little recognitions throughout the day, but verbalizing it out loud helps a lot too. And it will also be cool to go back maybe at the end of a year or so and watch these videos and see the progression of the way I communicate, the way my mind was working, my physical complexion, right? Like all these things are a part of that journey, because it's not like I'm on here doing this for weight loss or something. This is genuinely because I want to feel and function better in my life. I want to have more fun. And to me, fun is really about being here in this body, because the body it's our vessel of experience for every single thing that we go through in life. And on this journey, I have pushed away my body so much with this idea that we are not the mind and not the body. And although we're not bound by it, we are also in it within this world. And I feel like this is this almost reawakening period that I'm coming into, of deepening into the body. And it just feels really good to be able to have the devotion to go through an experiment like this. So if you're watching, I hope this has inspired you in some way, and feel free to share. Like I said in the other videos, if you guys have this determination and you're either wanting to experiment with it, or you have experimented with it, if you have any questions, I would personally love to hear if anybody has questions, because it might inspire me in something to think a little differently, or to try something differently, or to just respond to something that maybe multiple people are thinking about. Because like I said in the very first one, there's not a lot of content out there of people actually doing experiments with this determination, and I get why, for sure, but it's not a normal thing to hear, and it takes a lot of discipline, and it also doesn't. It took a lot more discipline to just create the container and say, I'm doing this, and then it did day to day. After I made that decision, it just became easy. It was like, yeah, find the things that you love, and you readjust. That's like, we are so resilient and adaptable in our lives that it's the decision itself that once it's made, it really doesn't feel that challenging. And because you're feeling better and better and better, that makes it easier and easier and easier to stick with it, even when you see things that, like, oh, that thing that looks good, your taste buds start to adjust. I'm noticing, I didn't speak too much about this, but I'm noticing the way that I enjoy food is changing so drastically. I never thought that I would enjoy things without salt, especially things like avocado or eggs or potatoes or like any of these things. I was like, no, I'm never going to want to eat. They actually start to taste incredible, and you start to taste flavors inside of things in a whole different way. And I feel like I'm just barely scraping the surface of this, because these things take, I feel like, a big recalibration period. But one of the things that I'm noticing a huge appreciation for is like pure cacao, like bitter cacao. I never thought that I would want to eat that plain, and I absolutely love it now. Same with avocado. I thought, oh, I'm never going to want to eat that at all. So good. It also starts to allow you to really feel the beauty in letting yourself get hungry, because then you appreciate the taste of things. And that's the thing I'm working on the most right now. Is my job right now is working around kids, and they actually eat this way. So they bring all this food every day that are one ingredients. And so I end up like snacking, and then don't always allow myself to really get hungry. So one of the things that I'm wanting to work with now, that I've kind of fine-tuned the one ingredient, is like really listening to when I'm hungry and quantity, because it allows the experience to be even richer. So I'm gonna leave this here for now, and I will get to you guys in the next video. But if anybody does have questions or comments or shares, please feel free to drop them below. I'll see you guys soon. Much love.